The night didn't just surprise me, it cracked something open that I had spent years carefully sealing shut. I walked into that cafe thinking it was just another attempt at normal life, another harmless step outside the small, quiet world I had built around my daughter and myself. The lights were warm, the rain outside painted the windows with silver streaks, and for the first time in a long while, my heart wasn't bracing for disappointment. It was hopeful. It was light. And then, just when everything felt almost perfect, one simple truth turned the entire evening into something far bigger than a blind date ever should have been. Before the story pulls you any deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel for more real, emotional stories like this, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories alive. I had been a single dad for nearly 5 years, though it felt longer because time stretches differently when your life revolves around school schedules, doctor appointments, and bedtime routines. My daughter, Lily, was the center of my universe, the reason I woke up exhausted but grateful every single morning. Her mother had left when Lily was barely 2, choosing a life that didn't include late-night fevers, scraped knees, or the kind of responsibility that doesn't take days off. At first, I told myself I didn't need anyone else. Love, I believed, was something I had already given and lost, and what remained belonged entirely to my child. But loneliness has a quiet way of sitting beside you, especially on nights when the house is too still and your phone never lights up with a message meant just for you. The blind date wasn't my idea. It came from my sister, who insisted that hiding behind parenthood wasn't the same as being fulfilled. I resisted for weeks, making excuses about work, Lily's homework, or being too tired. The truth was simpler and harder to admit. I was afraid. Afraid of explaining my past, afraid of being judged for my present, and afraid that once someone knew the full story, they would decide it was too heavy to carry. Still, on that rainy evening, I found myself sitting across from a woman named Emily, someone whose smile felt genuine and whose laughter didn't seem forced or polite. The conversation flowed easily, like two people who had known each other longer than a single hour. As the minutes passed, something unfamiliar stirred inside me. I wasn't thinking about tomorrow's packed lunches or unpaid bills. I wasn't checking the time every few seconds, anxious to rush back home. I was present. I noticed the way Emily's eyes softened when she talked about her work, the way she listened instead of waiting for her turn to speak. It felt safe in a way I hadn't expected, and that safety was both comforting and terrifying. I could feel my guard lowering, brick by brick, and a part of me wondered if this was what hope felt like after years of emotional silence. But life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. Just as the evening reached that gentle peak where you start imagining what could come next, the truth emerged. Emily shared that she had a child. The words landed softly, but their impact was anything but. My chest tightened, not with judgment or fear of responsibility, but with something far more complicated. For years, I had carried the quiet assumption that my own situation made me less desirable, that being a single parent was baggage no one wanted to claim. And here, across from me, was someone brave enough to carry her own story openly, without apology. Memories flooded my mind in a rush. The nights Lily cried for a mother who wasn't there. The mornings I struggled to braid her hair before school. The looks from people who assumed I was incomplete, broken, or temporary. I realized in that moment how deeply those experiences had shaped me, how they had taught me to expect rejection before it ever arrived. Emily's honesty didn't scare me, it mirrored me. It reflected a life shaped by love and loss, responsibility and resilience. Yet, the fear didn't disappear instantly. Instead, it challenged me to confront something I had avoided for years, the idea that two imperfect lives could fit together not despite their complications, but because of them. The rest of the evening passed in a thoughtful haze. Outside, the rain slowed, and the city seemed to exhale. I walked home with my thoughts heavier than before, but also clearer. I thought about Lily asleep in her room, her stuffed animals lined up like loyal guards. I thought about how much courage it takes to love again when you've already been hurt, and how unfair it is to expect perfection from people who are simply doing their best. For the first time, I questioned the story I had been telling myself, the one where I was a burden rather than a blessing. Days passed, and the memory of that night stayed with me. It followed me through grocery store aisles and school drop-offs, through quiet dinners and loud bedtime stories. I found myself reflecting not on what could go wrong, but on what could go right. I realized that being a single parent hadn't diminished my capacity for love, it had expanded it. It had taught me patience, empathy, and the kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. And maybe, just maybe, someone else out there understood that kind of strength because they carried it too. When Emily and I met again, the air between us felt different, heavier with truth but lighter with understanding. There was no need to pretend or perform. We were two parents navigating lives shaped by responsibility, learning how to make space for something new without taking away from what mattered most. It wasn't easy. There were schedules to juggle, fears to unpack, and moments where doubt crept in uninvited. But there was also respect, honesty, and a shared understanding that love doesn't arrive perfectly packaged. It grows slowly, in the spaces where patience meets effort. Over time, our lives began to intersect in small, meaningful ways. Weekends at the park, shared stories of sleepless nights, laughter that felt earned rather than accidental. I watched Lily smile in ways that reminded me of who she was before the world taught her about absence. And in those moments, I understood something profound. Love isn't about finding someone without scars. It's about finding someone who understands where the scars came from and doesn't ask you to hide them. This story isn't about a perfect ending or a fairy tale romance. It's about growth. It's about the courage to sit across from someone and tell the truth, even when that truth feels risky. It's about learning that second chances don't erase the past, they honor it by building something better on top of it. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope after heartbreak, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can reach the people who need them most. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something from the heart. Please comment and tell us what this story made you feel and whether you believe love can truly begin again when life gets complicated. Because sometimes, the most beautiful connections aren't born from perfect beginnings, but from two people brave enough to show up with their whole truth. And sometimes, the moment you fear will end everything, becomes the moment that finally, quietly, changes your life forever.